Yo, what's going down, everybody? Walking Dead here, back again with, you guessed it, another episode of my Walking Dead reboot series. This is season 2, episode 5, titled Search. Thank you all for the love and support. I really do appreciate it. And before I start the episode, I want to get this out of the way and say, don't worry, characters will die, but it's just I don't want to rush, because if I rush, then I'm going to be making mistakes, and that's why I'm going to be, repeating the TV series mistakes. Like, for example, because the showrunner was bloodthirsty and killing off all these characters, that's when people got upset because Andrea on the show died. So I don't want. That's why I don't want to rush. I don't want to be killing off characters, important characters every 5 minutes. That's just no. But I just want to get that out of the way, and don't worry, a lot of surprises and twists and turns are coming. So don't worry, a lot is coming. So for this series, so please stay tuned. And I just want to get that out of the way, so you guys don't be like, oh, why is he not killing off anybody? But don't worry. People will die. Just please be patient, and you'll get your wish. But anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's start this episode now, shall we? The episode begins with Shane zooming out of Shane's eye through his face, and he is like, holy smokes, we need to get out of here. He screams to Otis, Otis, we gotta go, we gotta get out of here now. Otis screams, yeah, and they both run to one of the exit doors, opens it, and starts running as the zombies are running behind them. They're running through the halls, they're running for their lives. Otis opens one of the doors. Otis screams, Shane, this way. He gets to Otis. Otis closes the door and grabs the furniture, all the desk, tables, shoves them all at that door, making sure the walkers don't bust their way through. Shane looks around as he's looking up in the gym. He sees all the windows boarded up except for one. Shane then says to Otis, we need something to get up there, because there's a window half broken, half not. So we gotta get up there, break the window, and get to the other side of the area so we can run straight to the medical building. Otis then says, well then, we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Shane says, yeah, what's that? Otis then says, the bleachers. Shane's like, oh no. Otis then says, well, do you want that boy to die? Shane says no. Otis is like, then let's climb the bleachers. There's no other way, man. All the furniture that's in this gym is blocking that door so the walkers won't escape. So it's either stand here and argue, or we can go climb the bleachers, break the window, and get to the other side. Shane says fine. They both as Shane's climbing the bleachers, Otis is also climbing the bleachers, trying to get to that window. Meanwhile, back at Herschel's farm, Lori is looking at Carl, and she is just upset. And she is just sad and broken by looking at Carl just in the crazy state that he's in. She cries, and she is just sad. Rick sees this and asks his wife Is she okay? Lori responds to yes, but Rick can easily tell that she's sad. Lori then says, I need to get some fresh air. Back at Dale's RV, Carol is crying as well. She is crying and starting to lose hope that her daughter might still be alive and out there, all alone. She's just really upset because she's just missing her daughter so much, and it's just eating her up inside that her daughter's still out there in the woods all by herself. Daryl then sits up, grabs his crossbow, and says, I'm gonna go out on the road to search for the girl. Carol then stops crying and looks at Daryl like, wow, this dude is actually gonna go out in the middle of the night to look for my daughter. Andrea says, I'll go with you. Daryl says, fine by me. As they exit the RV, Daryl tells Dale that they're gonna go search for Sophia. Dale's like, are you sure you want to go out at this hour? Daryl says yes. Why? Because that little girl is still out there by herself in the woods missing. If we don't go search for her now, then who knows what could happen. Back at the school, Shane is on the top of the bleacher. As Otis is almost there, the walkers bust through the doors. All of them start running towards Shane and Otis. But before they can bite Otis on the leg, Otis takes Shane's hand and makes it to the top of the bleacher. Shane then grabs his shotgun and breaks the window as the walkers are trying to climb the bleachers, but unfortunately, it doesn't work. They get to the other side. As Shane is on the ground, Otis yells at Shane saying, yo, throw your stuff down here. He throws his bag and his gun to Otis. He then does what he has to do, which is jumping out of the window and falling on the ground. He busts his butt, but then again, he knows that's worth it. Why? Because if he doesn't get that medicine, Carl is going to die. So he gets up. He forces himself up the floor, and they run to the medical building. Back at the farm, Maggie is on her dad's chair watching the stars. As a car pulls up, it is revealed that Glenn, T-Dog, John Miller, and Felipe made it to the farm. They walk up, and they see Maggie. Maggie's like, well, it's you two brats again. What's up? Glenn then says, it's not just two of us. We brought a friend and a nurse that could be able to help out with T-Dog. T-Dog, John, and Felipe introduces themselves to Maggie for the first time. Maggie says, it's nice to meet you all. Maggie then looks at T-Dog's arm, and she is thinking a little bit, but T-Dog then says, no, it's not a bite. I just cut myself really bad. Maggie then says, come in. We have some medical supplies for your friend and for my stepmom to help. And when you guys are in there, I'll help whip something to eat while my two brothers watch my two little sisters. Glenn and T-Dog say thank you very much, and Maggie says don't mention it. As they enter the house, John immediately runs to the room where Carl is sleeping. T-Dog, Felipe, and Glenn walk in the room as well as Maggie also walks into the room. T-Dog says, if you need anything, Rick, just holler. Rick says okay, as he's still upset. John is looking at Carl, and he is like upset. John says, Carl? Or he says, you're more than welcome to stay if you want. John says, It's alright, I'll wait in the kitchen. It seems like you and Rick needs this moment to be with, your son. Lori says, fair enough. Before John exits the room, Lori says, thank you. John says, you're welcome. Herschel then removes Carl's blankets off his chest, revealing the wound is getting worse, and that the wound does not get the proper medical treatment. Carl will die. Lori and Rick see this, and they start to tear up even more, knowing that their son is suffering. Herschel then says, if Shane and Otis doesn't get back soon, we're going to have to make a decision. Rick says, and that is? Herschel then says, to operate on this boy with the respirator. Lori then says, I thought that wouldn't work. Herschel says, I know, but if they're not back, then I'm going to have no other choice but to use the respirator without the medicine. And I know that's not what you folks want. Lori then gets up and runs to the front door in sadness. Rick then says, I'll go talk to her. In the woods, Andrea and Daryl are searching for Sophia nonstop. They have their flashlights and their weapons ready to go in case of walkers come out of the woods and try to bite them. Andrea asks Daryl, do you think we'll find Sophia? And Daryl says, yes, I do. I believe she's still out here in these woods, and I believe she's still alive, and I believe that we can find her if we work together. I believe we can find her, and I believe that everything's going to be okay. It's just, you just can't give up. Especially when a little girl's life is on the line. But then again, we're in the Georgia woods. People get lost, only to be found all the time. Andrea then tells Daryl she's only 9 years old. Daryl then tells Andrea, I was 7 years old when I first went missing in these woods. Well, just me anyway. My dad was talking with a waitress with him being all drunk and shit. Merle was still being a jerk and serving a 5-year sentence in juvie for being a stupid idiot. But somehow I was able to make it back home and cook myself a nice sandwich, even though my Uncle Jess was looking for me, being an idiot. But I mean, the point being, no matter how someone gets lost, they could be found. Andrea then asks her how long we were in the woods. Daryl then says 9 days. I had no other choice but to wipe my behind with poison oak instead of toilet paper. Andrea laughs, starts to crack up a little bit. As you can see, these two are becoming close, really good friends. Daryl then says, well, the difference between me and Sophia is with Sophia, they got people looking for her 24/7. That's not only telling, but that's showing that there's people that care. Back at Herschel's farm, Lori is outside and she's just upset. She then opens up to Rick a little bit, as in this scene she gets a lot of character development, saying, Rick, when I was first shot, I was 17. I was bleeding so fast that I passed out. I remember my dad being in the hospital and them saying that you just came out of an operation. I said, Dad, was I still bleeding when I took that bullet out of me when I was passed out? My dad then say, yeah, they did. But they did only to save your life, sweetie. They did it only to save your life. We can't just give up, Rick. You can't just give up. Sometimes you just gotta pray. Why? Because maybe if you pray and hope for the best, maybe things could be okay for Carl. But I can't just give up. Rick then says, neither can we. Lori then says, I have faith that Carl can beat this world. I have faith that no matter how many times you get shot or he gets shot, things are gonna be fine. We gotta survive. You, me, Carl, the group, we have to survive for a better place. And I have faith, Rick, that you can do that. Find a place that's safe for Carl, for the group, for everyone. Rick then says thank you, but Lori then is like, you gotta be the leader, Rick. You gotta be a leader for everyone, not just us. You gotta keep not only us safe, but those people safe. Lori then is like, I'm still sad, very sad. But we have to keep fighting, Rick. We have to. Because sometimes if you don't fight, you die. And either you die weak or you die as a strong survivor. Rick then's like, well then, let's get back in that room together, hope for the best, and wait for our son to wake up. Lori then smiles and kisses Rick. Back at the school, Shane grabs the bolt cutters from his backpack, cuts the locks to the doors of the medical facility. He kicks down the doors, and him and Otis are in the medical facility grabbing all the medical supplies, medicine, drapes, sutures, anything that's left. They exit the building as walkers are starting to get in the school. Otis then grabs his rifle and starts shooting mad walkers in the head. Shane looks at Otis and screams, "We have to leave." Otis then says, okay. Back at Herschel's farm, Lori is whispering in Rick's ear, saying, you gotta be the leader, Rick. Sometimes you just have to be. Rick says, thanks for opening up to me. Lori says, you're welcome. I love you, Rick. Rick then says, I love you back. They both kiss. As the scene is interrupted by Herschel. Then Herschel then says to Rick and Lori that Carl's awake. They both rush in the room with happy faces. Lori is like, Carl, are you okay? Hey, no, it's okay. We're in Herschel's house. He's helping you. And he's gonna make sure that you're feeling better. Carl then says, Dad, you won't believe it. I saw a deer. Rick says, I know, I saw it too. But not that. This one was different. This one was looking at me. Not running away, not scared, just looking at me. Like, I don't know. Like an answered prayer. Saying that everything's gonna be alright. That you're gonna be okay as long as you keep going. The deer was... Where is this, Carl? Carl? Rick then screams, John, get in here. John's like, oh my God. Rick then immediately screams to Herschel, what's wrong with him? Herschel screams and says he's having a procedure. He's going to have to fighting on his own. No medicine or anything could be able to stop the procedure. As Carl's fighting the procedure, he passes out again. As John is screaming, no. Carl, wake up. Carl? John then looks at Rick and Lori. Like he's still breathing, but he knows that they need Shane and Otis now. Otherwise, he's gonna die. Back at the school, Otis and Shane reach the fence, but unfortunately it's covered by walkers, meaning mad walkers are closing in on their position, and Shane's gonna have to make a choice, whether to sacrifice himself or to go on without Otis. That's what he's thinking about in his mind. But Otis then snaps his fingers, saying, wake up, boy. We gotta get to that car. Now. Shane says, yeah, right. Otis then grabs his gun and shoots mad walkers in the head. Back to the RV, Dale's on watch as Carol climbs the stairs. Dale's like, you okay? Carol says, yeah, I'm fine. It's just, I'm going to stand here and wait for him to come back if it's okay with you. Dale says it's okay. It's fine. I get it. You're, waiting for them to come back with news about Sophia. Carol then says, you can go down and lie down if you want to. Dale's like, no, I'm staying here because that girl, if she comes and if I'm like not here to keep watch or to let everyone else know, then I don't know, maybe that makes it bad on my part. But I can't just abandon my post just because I'm tired. The point is, Sophia needs us now. Carol then tells Dale, I think you might be right. She then asks Dale, where did they go? And Dale says they went somewhere down in that direction over there towards the woods. Carol then says, well, I just hope they come back safe and sound. Back in the woods, Daryl comes across a tent and he sees there's nobody there. All he sees is a bloody knife, old supplies, and just a tent, an empty tent with nobody in there. He looks at one of the trees and finds a bloody note saying, got bit, fever hit, world gone to shit, might as well just quit. Daryl's like, nope, that ain't happening. Well, Andrea then walks and sees what Daryl just saw, and she's just disgusted by this. So disgusted to the point where she froze up a little bit. Daryl then jokes and says, well, I guess this is fucking payback for joking about my itchy ass. Andrea then froze up again as Daryl starts to laugh a little bit. Daryl says, let's go back. Andrea's like, what, you're not gonna kill it? Daryl says, why bother? It's not hurting anybody. Andrea then gets a little closer and realizes that this could have been her if she just given up. She then realized that trying to end her own life was ridiculous and dumb and stupid. Daryl asks the question, do you want to live now? She looks at Daryl. And then Daryl's like, just asking the question. Not to make you feel uncomfortable. Andrea then looks at the walker and turns back to Daryl, and we get that famous line where Andrea says, an answer for an arrow. Daryl then says, fair enough. Tell me. Tell you the truth, I do want to live. It's just the only reason I wanted to die back at that CDC building was because I missed my sister so fucking much. I wanted to end my own life because I couldn't bear the fact knowing that she died instead of me. My sister deserved to be here instead of me. And then when Dale and Vesta came into that building saying, you can't just give up, it made me realize that if Amy was still alive, she wouldn't give up either. But I just miss her every day, and I can't. Sometimes I don't know what to do, especially in a world kind of shit like this. You want an answer, right? You just got it. Daryl then says, fair enough, grabs his crossbow and kills the walker. Daryl then tells Andrea, I am truly sorry about Amy. She was a good kid. Andrea then says thanks. Daryl then says, you can live. Why? Because you are an amazing woman, and that I believe your sister wanted you to live, carrying her on. Sometimes you just gotta live in this crazy world remembering those you lost, even if it hurts you sometimes. Andrew then says, thanks, Daryl, I appreciate that. Daryl smiles and walks away. Back to the RV. Dale is looking around the woods as he's worried. Carol then says, you don't have to worry, she's with Daryl. Carol then looks at Dale and is like, why, you got a crush on Andrea or something? Dale makes that funny fucking look, saying, how the fuck did you know? Carol then says, you can't fool me. I can tell when, someone has feelings for somebody. You have feelings for her? It's okay if you do. I mean, you two are the same age anyway, even though with you got that famous beard and white hair. But then again, The real question is, what's stopping you, Dale? Are you scared to move on? Dale then says, well, if I take this ring off now, I would have to live the rest of my life moving forward, knowing my wife would have wanted me to find someone else. Carol is then like, then you know what? That's exactly what you do. You tell Andrea how you feel. And if you don't, well then you're just gonna look like a chicken. Carol then goes back down to go lay down. Dale looks at his ring, and there is a flashback of him in the hospital with his wife. Dale is looking at his wife like, come on, honey, you gotta beat this. You gotta. Dale's wife says, no. No, baby. I can't because I don't want to. I want to die in peace. And if you find someone else, don't be ashamed, honey. Be proud. Be happy for me. As the flashback ends, you see Dale looking at his hand, and he takes his ring off his finger. He closes his arm and says goodbye as he is crying. I miss you. And I always will. Back at the house, Felipe and Patricia are healing up T-Dog. Patricia is stitching up the wound as Felipe is cleaning out the wound so the blood won't come out. Maggie is also holding down T-Dog's arms in case if he moves. Well, he has Maggie to, make sure that nothing bad happens. Patricia then says, Merle Dixon, is that the man with the antibiotics? Glenn then says, no ma'am, Merle's no longer with us. T-Dog then says, well, I wouldn't really call Merle a friend, but sometimes things happen. Trisha then says, well, this medicine might have just saved your life. Trisha then asks Glenn, do you know what he was taking it for? Glenn says, clap. Felipe is then like, dude, no, don't tell him. He's making that funny fucking face, and he is like, no, dog, don't tell him. Shit. No, what the fuck? Glenn then says, sorry, not that, Yakima disease. Trish was like, yeah, okay. Well then, I would say that Merle Dixon's fucking stupid clap might have saved your ass. T-Dog then says, well, I'm trying not to think about that, so. Felipe says, easy there, tough guy. If you move, then it's gonna hurt even more. John Miller enters Beth's room as he's looking at Beth, and he's like, so we meet again, farm girl. Beth then says, nice to see you again too. John asks Beth, what are you writing there? Beth says a song. I always wanted to be a professional singer. But after I graduated college, I decided to help out my dad around the house. I love this farm and I think it was amazing, and I thought maybe staying and helping out with family for a while would be a nice thing to do. Like community service. John says, yeah, something like that. Beth then's like, you want to come and see what I wrote? John's like, sure. They both sit down as Beth is reading, singing John the song. And he is just listening to her singing. And he is like, wow. Just wow. As Beth finished singing, John then says, you have an amazing voice. Like, amazing. I think you'd be a fantastic singer one day, and I think I might just be your first helper. Beth giggles and smiles and blushes and says, thank you. Do you think that kid's gonna be okay? John then says, yes, I think it's gonna be okay. As soon as Shane and Otis get back, everything will be fine. As John is trying to leave, Beth's like, no, stay. I want to get to know you more, if that's okay. John says, sure. I would love that very much. John sits back down, and they start to have a nice friendship conversation. As John sees the bubbles and the toys, they start playing with the bubbles, playing with the toys, joking, and having a fantastic time together. Maggie comes into the room, sees this, and she is like smiling as she sees something positive, something amazing. And she's just happy to see Beth like this, as she has been sad for a long time now. And she is just looking at Beth like, looks like someone's happy. She's just like, wow, that John's getting really, close to Beth and having a great time. The next shot is Maggie going outside, and he sees Glenn praying. Maggie's like, what you doing there? Glenn says, I was just praying. Praying for Carl. Praying for Lori. And everyone in the group. He also says, it's my first time praying. As when I was a kid, I never really got into church that much. But when the world is shit, you might as well just pray. Maggie then jokes, says, well, first time praying, huh? My bad, I fucked that up for you. Maggie and Glenn start laughing and giggling a bit. Maggie then says, I would like to get to know you more, Glenn, if that's okay with you. Glenn says, of course. Why not? Seems like we're going to be here for a while anyway. Maggie smiles and goes back inside the house. Back to RV. Dale goes to one of the nearby trees, digs a small hole, and puts his running ring and buries it, letting his dead wife go. Daryl then says, sometimes, if you gotta love somebody, you gotta think about them for yourself. He says, goodbye, my wife, until we see each other again. Or he's then Rick's then looking at Carl, as then he looks to Lori and says, I was thinking about what you said about there being a place out there. I want to believe it. For Carl. For you. For the group. Which is why you're right, Lori. We can't give up. We can't. Because we gotta stay alive for Carl. Back at school, Otis and Shane are running. Shane trips and falls on his leg. He tells Otis, leave me, now. Otis then says, no, I'm not leaving without you. We're both gonna get out of here together. Come on. As Shane gets up, he starts running. Otis grabs his gun and shoots 3 walkers in the head. As he's trying to shoot another one, the bullet hits its arm. As the next shot is panning out, we see Herschel walking in the room, and he says he's still losing blood as much as we can replace it. Plus, there's a swelling in his eyes, his abdomen, and it's. Listen, we can't wait any longer. Lori then's like, if you need blood, take mine instead. Don't take any more from my husband. Take blood from me instead. Please. Because my son's life is on the line. And sometimes you can't just fucking give up. Marshall then says, I understand that, but if we don't do something soon, he's just gonna slip away. Which is why I need to know right now if you both want me to do this. Because I think you boys out of time. John, hearing this from outside the room, he starts to cry. As he's just scared that something bad's gonna happen to Carl. That he feels helpless to do anything. Herschel then screams, you gotta make a choice. John then walks in the room and says, a choice? I mean, what is that choice, really? Rick then turns to Lori and says, a choice? You have to tell me what it is. Please, honey. You have to tell me what it is. Then we do it. John agrees and says, Carl, you can be okay, kid. You're gonna be okay. As Lori and John are holding Carl, Herschel screams, okay, on the count of 1, 2, and then out of nowhere you hear this beep, and it is Shane in the car. Rick, Lori, and John hear him pull up. They look outside the window and see him come out of the car. John is in shock by this as he runs out through the front door. The next shot pans out where we see Herschel, John, Rick, Lori, Glenn, T-Dog, Maggie, and Beth all come out of the house. Shane, at this point, is out of the vehicle and he has all the medical supplies. Shane then screams, Carl. John is like, he's in the room, in the house. We gotta get this medical equipment in there now. Beth and Herschel grab the medical equipment as T-Dog and Felipe help get the equipment in the house. Maggie then looks around and is like, where's Otis? Shane is looking at Maggie and Rick and John, and he is like, he didn't make it. John says, what? He didn't make it. This scene pans out in a different way where instead of Rick hugging Shane, it's John that hugs Shane. and says, I'm just glad you made it back, brother. One piece. I'm just glad you're back. Shane then says, same here, brother. Maggie starts crying in sadness over Otis's death. She is sad. As Beth comes out, she's like yelling, what happened? And she tells Beth that Otis didn't make it. Beth, for the first time in this series, we see her cry. And she is just crying in sadness. She is on the floor of the porch, crying her eyes out as John comforts her and says everything's going to be okay. Otis then opens up to John in that moment and says, I knew Otis since I was 3 years old. And he took care of me. He took care of me, John, and he was family. He was like his stepfather to me, and I never got to say that. I never get to say that I loved him. I never got to say that. John then says it's okay. Let it all out. Let it all out. And then freaks out and says, he told me to run. Otis told me to run, and he said he was going to cover me. And then those things got him. And then I just kept going. I kept going, and I did what he said. I just kept going. It never stopped. And now he's gone because I couldn't do anything about it. Back at the RV, Daryl and Andrea come back from their search, but Carol doesn't see Sophia. She gets a little upset and disappointed and goes back inside. Daryl then opens the door of the RV and says, don't worry, I'll go talk to her. Daryl then says, Andrea, wait. I got a gift for you. And there's something I need to tell you. But first, I found this rifle on the side of one of the abandoned cars. I think you should have it. At this point, Andrea has her comic book rifle that she used in the comics. And she is like happy that she has a new weapon and not that shitty gun she was working so hard to fix. Andrea says thank you, and Dale then says, listen, straight up, I have feelings for you. I have feelings for you ever since we met. I just didn't know how to tell you. I was nervous. But, sometimes you gotta let those you loved before go. But now, I want to start again with you. Andrea then drops her gun, runs to Dale, and kisses him. They kiss and kiss as Andrea takes all of her clothes off. Vesta wakes up and she is like, well, don't wanna interrupt now, do I? In a joking manner. Dale takes his clothes off, opens the car as Andrea and Dale are in the car having sex, and Daryl looks outside the window and is like, well, better not disturb them. Back at the house, Maggie is crying in the kitchen, and Glenn is like, everything's gonna be okay. Show me those you lost. Maggie says, shows Glenn the photo of Sean, saying, "Brother, my mother, those who I lost." Glenn then says, "I lost my parents at the start of all this. I know exactly how you feel." Maggie then hugs Glenn as Glenn holds her close. As Maggie says, "Thank you for telling me what you just told me." Glenn says, "You are very welcome, and I am here for you if you need anything." The next shot is outside with John, Shane, Lori, and Rick outside waiting to hear the news about Carl. Herschel comes out and says he is going to be okay. John, Beth, and everybody else that's outside is happy. Shane is happy. But at what cost? Rick then tells Lori, "You go to Carl, I'll go with Herschel." Lori, Beth, Maggie, Glenn, and Rick and Herschel break the news down to Patricia about Otis. She is upset. She drops one of the plates she was holding and drops to her knees onto the floor in sadness and in pain. Shane comes through the door and looks at Patricia, and he just feels so guilty to the point where he just cries himself and walks away. The next shot is Maggie giving Shane some clothes. Maggie says these are Otis's, but I think he will want you to have them. Shane says thanks, walks up to the bathroom. As he turns on the water, you can see the heat going on the windows as he starts checking his hair, and he notices that's the hair of the spot where Otis grabbed his hair and pulled some of it out. He grabs a razor and starts shaving as he has a flashback, and this leads to one of the darkest moments in the whole episode. You see the flashback where Shane stops running and Otis is like, "What are you doing? We gotta get the fuck out of here." Shane looks straight into Otis's eyes and says, "I am so sorry," and shoots Otis in the leg. As he starts running, Otis is screaming, "You motherfucker! Fuck you! You stupid fuck! You backstabbing motherfucker! I trusted you! I trusted you! You fucker! You fucker! Ah! As Shane turns off the water, he looks into the mirror and he hallucinates Reggie. He is in shock by this, and Reggie is like, "You see it, don't you, Shaney boy? You're becoming a lot like me. You don't see it yet, but you're gonna. You killed that man after he tried to help your dick. After he tried to save your sorry behind. You might actually be worse than me. Don't worry. You're alone. Because you don't have Lori, you don't have Carl, you don't have the group, you don't have anything. All because you rely on Richie Grimes. And don't worry, pretty soon, you're gonna kill him. And you are gonna be the leader. Pretty soon, your baby is gonna be born into this world knowing her dad
is a hero, knowing that her dad killed her stepdad in cold blood in front of her brother. Yes, don't worry, Rick. Sorry, Richie. You died being so dumb and so stupid that you couldn't see your own best friend shooting you in the back of the head.
As he closes his eyes, he sees nothing there. And he just cries in anger. And he notices that the only way to fight his demons is to accept that his demons are with him. As the thunder in the background is starting to just thunder and thunder and thunder and thunder. And boom! That is the end of the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know there wasn't really, a lot of action, but there was a lot of Walker, badass Walker kills. And the character development in this episode I needed for the second half. Because the second half, that's where things are really going to get darker. And where things are really going to hit the fan. And I can't wait for you guys to see. But anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. And as always, peace out. And see you in the next one.